Imagine your brain trying to process a gunshot,
Oh, man.
right? Like in a fraction of a second, your amygdala, which is your brain's alarm system, it just completely takes over.
Mm-hmm.
It's screaming at your body to survive. And in doing that, it literally starves your language centers of blood flow
Mm.
and processing power.
Because perfect grammar isn't going to save your life.
Exactly. Perfect sentences don't dodge bullets. So your reality just fragments. So you process the world in these staccato bursts.
Yeah.
And today, we're looking at a piece of writing that puts us directly inside that short-circuiting brain. So welcome to today's deep dive. I'm thrilled you're joining us because our source material today is wildly different from, the polished articles or peer-reviewed studies we usually tackle here.
It really is.
We're looking at a singular, highly visceral, and incredibly raw text. It's simply titled Text.
Just text.
Yeah. And it's only 10 lines long.
Yeah.
But it reads like this insane collision between spoken word poetry, rap lyrics, and a really frantic stream of consciousness journal entry.
And it is a phenomenal primary source precisely because it hasn't been sanitized for public consumption.
Right.
Our mission with this text today is to perform a close reading. We really want to extract its underlying commentary on gun violence, racial dynamics, trauma, and, honestly, systemic failure.
Yeah, because every single fragmented word in those 10 lines carries just immense psychological weight.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. But before we read the first line, I do need to share a quick, really important note with you listening.
Good call.
This text is raw, and it ends with some explicit, politically charged references regarding national leadership and law enforcement. So our goal today is absolutely not to endorse any political stance.
No, not at all.
Nor are we taking sides. We're here strictly to impartially analyze the author's perspective. We just want to understand the mechanics of the ideas.
Essentially acting as translators of a lived experience. We want to examine how this author uses language, or really the breakdown of language,
Burden, yeah.
to express a reality that most of us only ever see as a statistic on the evening news.
Yeah, well said. So let's just drop right into the rhythmic chaos of the opening.
Yeah.
Because the text, it doesn't ease you in at all.
No, it pulls you instantly into a moment of absolute panic.
The opening line is, quote, "Shoot me up, shoot 'em up, get a gun, stuck our guts. We the one shoot a gun, kill your sons."
Wow.
Right. When I read that aloud, the lack of punctuation is just suffocating.
Yeah, it forces you to rush through it.
It does. It feels like a dark, twisted nursery rhyme or something, or like a heartbeat accelerating completely out of control.
Well, what's fascinating here is the neurobiology we touched on earlier,
Right.
specifically regarding Broca's area, which is the part of the brain responsible for speech production.
Mm-hmm.
When a person is suddenly plunged into extreme, life-threatening trauma, the brain's survival mechanisms basically hijack the nervous system.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. The prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, organizing part of the brain, it just goes offline. Yeah, so people struggling to process sudden violence often recall the event in these exact kinds of fragmented, repetitive bursts.
So it's not just a stylistic choice.
No, the author isn't just writing about a shootout. The grammatical structure is literally mimicking the neurological experience of trauma.
That makes so much sense. I picture it like a scratched CD skipping violently.
Oh, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
The brain is trying to read the data of what's happening, but the laser just keeps jumping back to the same terrifying moment. Shoot me up, shoot 'em up.
Right.
And then immediately following that frantic burst, the author writes, "It's very simple. We hear a wow, we hear a scream, tremble sounds."
Tremble sounds.
Yeah, that phrase, tremble sounds. It completely strips away the cinematic action movie glamour we usually associate with, like gunplay.
It really does. It brings us back to the visceral, physical reality of the body. A tremble sound is an involuntary physiological response to terror.
You can't control it.
Exactly. The adrenaline dumps into the bloodstream, the muscle spasm, the breathing hitches. And we see how desperately the author tries to cover up that physical terror in the very next breath.
Right, because the following line is, "Shoot 'em up, can't shoot me down."
Which is pure desperate armor.
Yeah, it's bravado.
Yeah.
But the armor cracks almost immediately because amidst all this posturing, the speaker suddenly pivots and asks this incredibly jarring question. "Mom, my gun, are you proud right now?"
Yeah, that line is heavy.
I stared at that line for a long time.
Yeah.
You have a lethal weapon placed right next to the most primal, innocent desire a human being possesses.
The need for a mother's validation.
Yes. The need for your mom to be proud of you.
The punctuation there is crucial to understanding the psychological state, too. The author uses an interrobang.
Like the question marks and exclamation points mixed together.
Yeah, exactly. Multiple question marks and exclamation points. It transforms a simple question into this desperate plea. Because in environments where traditional avenues of finding worth and protection are absent, the gun becomes a warped rite of passage.
It's how you prove yourself.
Right. The child is essentially asking if participating in this lethal cycle is the only way to be recognized, to be seen as a man, to have value.
It shows a complete corruption of childhood innocence.
By the sheer necessity of survival.
Man, so if the armor of bravado is that thin, what actually dictates their sense of self-worth when the armor cracks?
The text points us toward the literal ground they stand on.
Yeah, the poem shifts here from the physical act of shooting into the deeply ingrained societal dynamics. The author writes, "All my life I tremble night, a man's worth in a black man's dirt."
A man's worth in a black man's dirt. We are moving from the micro-level panic of a single shootout to the macro-level tragedy of an entire environment.
Okay, I want to push back on the traditional reading of this, though, or at least I want to explore the mechanics of what the author is actually claiming here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Does this line suggest that the speaker feels society only values them in death, like literally when they are buried in the dirt? Or is this a commentary on how territoriality, like the literal street corners or dirt they control, has become the only available metric for masculinity?
That's a really great point. It raises an important question about how systemic deprivation rewires community values.
Yeah.
And sociologically, it actually functions as both.
Oh, really? Both at once?
Yeah. On a macro level, it reflects a system where marginalized bodies are often only commodified or recognized through their destruction.
Right.
But locally, within the neighborhood, it's about hyper-localized worth. When systems cut off access to economic stability, generational wealth, or, safe
The
housing,
definition of man changes.
the definition of what makes a man shrinks down to the microscopic level. Your worth becomes inextricably tied to the literal dirt you stand on.
Wow.
And your willingness to defend it, even if it guarantees your death.
Even if you end up in that dirt. And that hyper-localized conflict is immediately contrasted with a broader racial and systemic disparity. Because the author writes, white man gun, black man knife, shoot him up, traumatize his wife.
We see the synthesis of asymmetric power dynamics right there.
How so?
Well, the contrast between the gun and the knife is highly symbolic of resource deprivation.
Okay, I see.
Historically, in the context of systemic inequality, the gun represents institutional backing, distance, and superior firepower.
Well, the knife is...
A knife represents desperate proximity and a lack of access to the same tools of survival. The author is basically laying out the rules of a rigged game.
a rigged game.
Yeah.
And the fallout of that rigged game doesn't just end with the people holding the weapons.
No, it never does.
Look at the end of that line. Traumatize his wife. The author specifically hyphenates the word trau, ma, fisenize.
Yeah, they stretch the word out phonetically.
Why do you think they did that?
Stretching the word mimics how the trauma itself stretches across time, across relationships.
It doesn't just stay on the corner.
Exactly. The violence doesn't stay on the street corner. It radiates into the living room. The hyphenation visually breaks the word apart, just as the secondary trauma of witnessing or surviving this violence breaks apart the family unit.
The collateral damage isn't an anomaly.
It's a central, recurring feature of the cycle.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because that radiation of trauma, it goes outward to the family, sure, but it also burrows deeply inward into the speaker's own biology.
Yeah, into the body itself.
The author writes, "Twisted brains, it's in my veins to stick 'em up, this killing insane."
It's in my veins.
Yeah, I'm stuck on that phrase.
Yeah.
Is the author implying a sense of biological determinism? Like a feeling that they are genetically cursed from birth to live and die this way? Or are they describing an environmental conditioning that is just so relentless it mimics biology?
That's the core question, isn't it? The distinction lies in how chronic hyperarousal physically alters the human body.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Have you ever heard of the concept of allostatic load?
I think so, but remind me.
It refers to the wear and tear on the body from chronic stress. When you live in a constant state of warfare, your nervous system is essentially overclocked.
It's always running hot.
Right. The trauma literally lives in the body. It courses through the veins as elevated cortisol and adrenaline.
So it feels biological.
The tragedy is that the speaker's rational mind recognizes the absurdity of the situation.
Right, they call it this killing insane.
Exactly. But their physical body is entirely captive to a survival mechanism they cannot turn off. It feels biological because the environment has rewritten their physiological baseline.
Wow. And the dissonance between knowing the cycle is insane and being physically compelled to participate in it, it completely shatters their language.
Completely.
Listen to how the words dissolve in the next lines. Some men say, men kill him, black then. I'm shed, he's dead. Sane men, we dem.
The rhythmic drive of the opening has collapsed entirely.
Yeah, it's just pieces of thoughts.
We are witnessing the linguistic endpoint of a mind trying to articulate a reality that defies all logical explanation. It is the sound of cognitive dissonance breaking the speaker's ability to form a cohesive thought.
I read, I'm shed, he's dead. Almost like a stutter.
Yeah, a stutter.
Like a mind hitting a wall of grief and just bouncing off it. But then, out of that short-circuiting, they land on this deeply chilling conclusion. Sane men, we dem. They are claiming sanity.
Which is terrifying, but it makes sense within their context.
How?
Because if the overarching rule of your universe is violence, then participating in that violence is the only logical way to navigate it.
Oh, wow.
To drop your weapon, to refuse to fight back in an environment that demands it for survival, that would be considered insane.
Right. You'd be crazy to walk out there unarmed.
Exactly. The speaker is trapped by a collective identity forged entirely in death. They have redefined sanity to fit the shape of their trauma.
Man. So what does this all mean for the world outside that street corner?
Well, once the internal psychological breakdown reaches its limit, the pressure forces the speaker to look outward.
Right. They fire off this barrage of existential questions directed at the systems surrounding them. Why us? Why guns? Why law on us?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these questions shift the text from a personal diary entry to an indictment of society.
Okay.
Why us is the eternal question of the marginalized. They are questioning the cosmic injustice of their geography.
Why was I born here?
Exactly. And why guns demands an answer for how these weapons flooded their specific community in the first place.
Because they aren't manufacturing them on the block.
No, they aren't. And why law on us perfectly captures the friction of being over-policed yet fundamentally underprotected.
Yeah.
The law is experienced not as a shield, but as a weapon wielded against them.
But the response to those questions is just a deafening silence from the outside world. Because the author then writes, y'all sleep, we fall, homie dead, dead doll.
Dead doll.
I have to admit, dead doll stopped me cold.
The rough line.
It feels so brutally detached. Why would someone describe their murdered friend, their homie, with such cold, inanimate imagery?
It's a defense mechanism known as dissociation.
Dissociation.
Yeah. The human mind can only process a finite amount of horror before it reaches capacity.
It just shuts down.
Right. To survive the profound, crushing grief of seeing a friend murdered, the psyche has to temporarily objectify the loss.
Ah. So turning a living, breathing human being into a dead doll.
A broken, unfeeling toy left on the pavement.
God.
It is the only way the speaker can look at the body without completely losing their mind. It is the ultimate tragedy of the text. The environment forces you to dehumanize the people you love just to survive the Tuesday.
Just to survive the Tuesday. That's bleak. And the text doesn't let us look away from who might be responsible for that environment either.
No, it zooms out fast.
The author takes us from the microscopic trauma of that dead doll directly to the highest levels of power. And again, keeping our lens strictly analytical and neutral here, we have to look at how the author connects their local street corner to national politics. Because the final line reads, fucked cops, corrupted bot, Trump breaths, national deaths.
The author is completing an incredibly ambitious thematic arc here.
Yeah.
They are forcefully tying the blood on their specific street to the broader national apparatus.
Fucked cops speaks to that localized breakdown of trust, right? The feeling that local law enforcement is a threat rather than a safeguard.
Exactly. But the phrase corrupted bot is particularly telling.
A bot, like a robot.
Yeah. It suggests the speaker views the entire system of justice and governance not as a collection of flawed humans, but as an unfeeling, mechanized, algorithmic machine designed to grind them down.
The machine that operates without any empathy whatsoever.
None.
And then they explicitly name a national political figure. Trump breaths, national deaths.
The author is expressing a deeply held belief that the rhetoric, policies, and attitudes of national figures have a direct, lethal trickle-down effect on their neighborhood.
So a breath taken in Washington.
Translates directly to a body dropping on their street, in their worldview at least.
Wow.
They are utterly rejecting the idea that street violence exists in a vacuum. They are framing it as the intended downstream consequence of systemic corruption and national indifference.
It's a breathtakingly fast zoom out. I mean, in just 10 short lines, we traveled from the auditory terror of a bullet flying, trumble sounds to an indictment of the entire national power structure.
It's incredible compression.
We started with the chaotic, fragmented neurobiology of a brain under fire. We analyzed how a lack of resources shrinks the definition of worth down to the dirt. We looked at the tragic biological rewiring of a nervous system living in chronic hyperarousal, forcing the speaker to redefine sanity itself.
Sane men, we dim.
Right. And finally, we watched a mind dissociate out of grief, turning a friend into a dead doll before demanding answers from a sleeping society and a mechanized, corrupt system.
The sheer density of this text is what makes it so vital. A textbook can give you the statistics on systemic inequality, but it cannot map the human nervous system collapsing under the weight of it.
No, it can't.
This raw, unpolished stream of consciousness captures the intersection of racial trauma and the devastating cycle of violence with an authenticity that polished academic prose simply cannot replicate.
It demands a different kind of attention from you, the listener, too.
Absolutely.
It is so easy for us to build up our own armor. We scroll through our news feeds, we see the headlines about violence, we hear the endless political debates, and it all just blends into the background noise of modern life.
We get numb to it.
We become totally numb to the data points. But primary texts like this one, they bypass the intellect and go straight for the gut.
Yeah.
They force you to confront the frantic, terrified human heartbeat hiding behind those statistics. You are holding their fragmented reality in your hands, and you just can't unread it.
Which raises an important question to carry with us as we step away from this text today.
About that.
Well, if raw, unfiltered expressions of trauma, the fragmented words, the defensive anger, the profound dissociative pain, if that is the only way some voices can accurately process their reality,
Yeah.
how might engaging directly with this kind of uncomfortable, unpolished art fundamentally change the empathy we bring to the everyday news we usually just skim past?
Oh, that's a great thought. It makes you wonder what else we're missing when we only look for the polished stories.
Exactly.
Well, definitely something to mull over the next time a headline crosses your feed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.